Hi everyone, I'm Al Gonzalez. Many of you I've seen in classrooms and in different schools, and for others I'm new. I'm a former 5th, 6th grade teacher, and now I consult to support students and teachers with school leaders that are meeting various challenges so that everybody can find greater success and increase their achievement as students, teachers, and school leaders. I want to offer a couple of things today because I've met a number of students this school year whose teachers have struggled with them. So I want to share with you how I approach young people and support them as I support you in your school and classroom. I enter with 3 assumptions. Number 1, every child will be able to learn whatever the lesson is the teacher offers. Number 2, if he or she is struggling, it is because he or she has not yet figured out how to find success in any given lesson or your classroom in general. And the 3rd assumption I make is that he or she, as a struggling student, is fearful. So I just want to take some time to explore those 3 assumptions. The first one is that all students are able to learn. Now, sometimes we get confused with what that means because we assume that the learning means that he or she will be able to compete or measure up to or achieve with his or her peers during every single lesson. But that's not quite the assumption I make. I'm thinking when I enter that at whatever grade level he or she is at, that there's X number of years ahead until high school graduation where that child will be able to learn and catch up. Because that child is struggling, chances are he or she's behind in some way. So I don't expect that the learning to be done in any given classroom or even this year will bring him or her up to the levels of his or her peers. But I do always believe and assume that that child will be able to increase his or her achievement on the way to a number of years ahead where he or she will be able to graduate with his or her peers as a 12th grader. The second assumption is that the students are struggling because they're not sure how to find success. Now that could be because of routines or inconsistent routines or a lack of some routines in your classroom. It could also be content, a skill set that he or she has not been able to develop over time, whether it be new or a struggle over the last number of years. Either way, though, the child is stuck. And my job is to assist you to help get the child unstuck. The third assumption is that the child's fearful. And the fear is that I don't know how to avoid failure. Or the fear is, even if I find some success, I'm not sure if I'll be able to continue that success. And what fear does is freeze us. It gets us stuck and mired down in disbelief. What we have is a child whose identity is more fragile than others. The amount of risk that child is willing to take with you, with peers, or by him or herself is so low, you often see that child not doing too much work, doing sloppy work sometimes, rushing through other work, or avoiding work. Either way, my assumption is that I have to settle that child down with your assistance so that he or she begins to rebuild his or her sense of self and identity academically so that they can find more success. So when people are fearful in our personal lives, we often reach out. We offer a hug, we share our concern, we share hope, we connect, we take a moment to be patient, or many moments to just hold in silence and be present for that person who's fearful. Well, young people who are fearful in our classrooms don't always receive the same treatment, even though they should, because the fear is the same. They deserve to be hugged and loved and cared for. But when we're outnumbered in the classroom, 30 to 1, 35 to 1, 25 to 1, depending on the grade level, it's hard to find that within us to say, I know you're afraid. I know you're nervous. What can I do? What can we do? How are we going to get through this together? Put your arm around him or her, hand on the shoulder. It's going to be okay. What we often are interacting with or from is frustration. And in our frustration, our tone changes, the look on our faces change, the pace of our speaking changes, and there's a tension that gets created. Now that fear in children gives us two behaviors to work with. One is fight, the other is flight. If children are fighting back, you'll hear from them verbally. You might see them physically respond and react to you or to their peers. They might bother, distract, become annoying, frustrating. You know exactly who I'm talking about and what that behavior is. And all that behavior is for protection. I don't know if I can manage my fear, so I'm going to fight and create distance between me and whatever that assignment is, or me and you, teacher who's giving me this assignment. The second possibility is that he or she is going to fly away, avoid, get away from something. So he or she will not even put a name on the paper, may not even do the work, may just sit quietly, maybe put the head down, anything to avoid. And ultimately, some children know our buttons, so they'll do a certain thing or say a certain thing to remove him or herself from the classroom. All from fear is my assumption. And so when I approach a classroom, when I approach you, when I approach a young person, that's what I have in my head. And then the quest is to figure out how I can support you knowing this information based on the three assumptions of learning, long-term or short-term struggle, and fear. And once we can understand that about our young people, then we can figure out strategies to help him or her re-engage in class, re-engage a lesson at a time toward a future of engagement and achievement. When I enter the classroom in support of you and the students, these assumptions aren't always correct, but they do give me a place to start, and that mindset is so important to making sure that I remain open and positive and thinking productively with you and the students so that we can create better times of success and community. So knowing the assumptions, here's the strategies. If I believe all students will learn, I'm going to give the children access to the lesson in as many ways as possible. So naturally, we offer access through our verbal delivery. Second, we can offer access visually. For students who struggle, they need a visual resource that is going to stay and remain in the classroom. So one of the things that happens for children who struggle is that when you erase that whiteboard or when you remove that document visually, his or her learning goes with it. And there's a little voice inside that child's head that says, I'm never going to remember that. I'm lost. And then a behavior to cope with that feeling will come out from that child. The message being, teacher, you took away my anchor. I don't know what just happened. I don't know what's happening now. So the second assumption, they've been struggling for a while and they're not sure how to find success. So here's a couple of quick ideas. One thing to start your lessons is to always have an objective and a lesson agenda. When you have an agenda, what you're doing is creating a predictability in that lesson that creates comfort for the child. Just as you enter a PD session, if you know what's coming, you can feel better about why you're there. Children are the same way, especially those who struggle. Another thing to do is to use the following phrase. As a teacher, you can say, all you need to do to be successful with this lesson is blank. Depending on the part of the lesson, they can be successful by sitting and listening, by talking to their neighbor and completing the sentence frame or completing the academic conversation with their partners. Or they could be successful by doing numbers 1, 2, and 3 and waiting for your support. However you're going to share it, the idea is you give them access to how to be successful. Once again, all you need to do to be successful with blank is blank. And finally, one way to help young people who struggle to believe that they'll be able to find success in your classroom is to let them know that you're going to be helpful to them. One of the most anxious times for a student who struggles is when you say go or begin with independent work time. So before that happens, let them know how you're going to manage their presence during work time. So it might go something like this. Boys and girls, I have the second part of this lesson to offer. And then what's going to happen is you and I will do 2 sample problems together. And then I will partner you up, or you will work with your partners and begin independent work. And then there's the blue group today, or the red group today, or the green group today, however you want to differentiate your instruction, and we'll meet and start together in the back. Letting students know how the lesson will go and when they'll be supported is going to be helpful to those who struggle. Finally, the third assumption is what to do with the fear that students experience in our classrooms every day. A couple of things to remember. One is that as we prepare our lessons, and as adults who've already gone through the grade level we're teaching, the content seems fairly familiar. Because the content is not new for us, we have to remember that it is new for the students. And for students who struggle, new is risky. So to lower risk for students who are fearful, I go back to what we've shared previously. You give them access to the lesson, you give them a lesson agenda, you give them access to how to be successful, and then you throw in a smile, some cheering on, good job everybody, use proximity, hand on the shoulder, praise, whatever's going to allow him or her to feel that fear, that's not necessary. Comfort, love, concern, safety is what my classroom's about. Sometimes you can just name it. Boys and girls, as I look out to the classroom after finishing the lesson here, a lot of you look afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. We're going to get through this together. I'm going to help you individually, and I will help you in small groups. Don't worry. Everybody breathe. So sometimes naming that fear will also be a relief to those who are fearful. In the end, though, supporting struggling students is not about the 180-day cycle that you operate in as a classroom teacher. Supporting a struggling student is supporting a 13-year journey for a young person in school. So your job is to contribute as best you can to that journey, to be that teacher for a struggling student that in his or her memory is the one who got me to believe in myself, is the one who finally made writing fun, is the one who made English my second language that I'm also very good at. It's not easy to do. But if you understand the three assumptions, you have a better chance, I hope, of being reminded of what you used to do, or introduced to something new, or validated in your work now. I appreciate the time you took to listen and watch. Best of luck to you. My email is here. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.